Hello. So in the previous lesson we learned how to style a page, or at least the basics of it. And I did say that we'll be doing inline, internal and external styling in this lesson, but before we dive into that there is something that you need to know. Very important things. So what you need to know before we go further ahead with our CSS lesson is you have to know the difference between the block elements and inline elements in HTML. And also you have to know about the box model. This box model tells us about some certain things that will be very important to know when we want to style our page. So we have to learn this. It is important. Now, these two things are quite easy to grasp. They're very easy concepts to grasp. And in the process of learning them, I will also use the opportunity to show you about inline styling. Let us begin. What is a block element? A block element is simply an element that will occupy the entire width of a screen. And whenever you use an element after it, it will drop over to the next line. Think of it as some sort of container that occupies the entire width of a screen unless it has been affected by CSS. So by default, it will occupy the entire width of a screen, and it is a container, a block, some sort of container. Keep that in mind. So, given what I've said, you would like to think that the body itself is a block element because it is a container and it contains everything that we have within it. For example, in this block element, I would like to create a header of the first hierarchy, and I'll call it learning about block and inline elements. Not about. So this header of the first hierarchy, which is h1, has been contained in the body element, and it is a block element itself. Why don't we write something else here, and let's just say this will appear on the line below, or let's just say on the next line, not the line below, and save this, and we'll go back to Chrome and open it up. Now you see what happens. Here we have learning about block and inline elements, and it occupies this entire length here because this appeared on the next line. Why is that? Because we did have this will appear on the next line in the same line here when we're writing it in our code editor. But on the content view, it dropped down to the next line, and that is because the h1 element was a block element. It occupied the entire length of the screen regardless of the content it has. So even if the content does not occupy the entire width of the screen, sorry, not the length, the width of the screen, it will still take the width of the screen, because here we have some white spaces, but it is not part of the element itself. It is not part of the content, sorry. It is part of the element, but it is not part of the content. So that is what a block element is all about. It occupies the width of a screen and it contains things. Now for inline elements, they're just that, inline elements. They are what is found within a block, and it can be, what is found within a block can be a block element as well as it can be an inline element. But the difference between block elements and inline elements is inline elements will stick to the content. The width of inline elements will stick to their content. They will not occupy the entire width of the screen. They occupy just what their content occupies. An example of this will be our anchor element. Our anchor element is an inline element. What is within the anchor element will be what it occupies as width on our content view. For example, the content of this element will not span the entire width of the screen. So this will be a link, of course, because it is within anchor element, but it will not occupy the entire width of the screen. That is to say, if I write something out of this, it remain the same line as the anchor element. Let us find out. I come over to Chrome and I refresh the page. As you can see, we have it. The content of this element will not span the entire width of the screen. It's an empty link, of course, so it does not lead us to anywhere. And out of this, it's still on the same line. And the reason it also appeared on the same line as this is because this is actually in line as well. So it is not within any element, but it is considered inline by default. So if I were to delete this and I save the page, that will disappear, but the rest will still be the same. So that is the key difference between the block elements and inline elements. Now, to use this opportunity to really show you clearly what I'm really talking about here, I will apply a little bit of inline styling. Inline styling is styling you give to a particular element itself. You give it as an attribute, as a property. Yes, it is a property, sorry, it is not an attribute, it is a property. But the property can be an attribute, it can be something else, it can be the class. But this time, we just use property to generalize what we really mean. So say I want to apply some inline styling to our H1 element. I'll just come within and write style, and I'll give it a background, not a color. I'll just give it a background this time, and I'll give it something like that golden rod. It's just a random color I picked out there. I really have no idea what that golden rod color is. So once that style has been applied inline to this element, we'll come over and see what really happens. Now you see something. That color applied all the way through to the width of the screen. It did not end here. It went all the way here, and that is why whenever we try to do something after this element, it gets it over down to the next line. It gives an automatic line break to it. Now, just to further highlight the differences between these two elements, I'll apply another styling inline, of course, to the anchor element, and let's just use this dark khaki color. Now, when I come back to Chrome and I refresh the page, you notice that this color applied and ended at the content of that anchor element. So it ended where the content ended. It did not end at the width of the screen. That is the key difference between inline and block elements. It is very important to know this, and you see why when we try to start a page that looks like this. So for now, just understand that the block elements occupy the entire width of the screen, while inline elements occupy just what your content is all about. Now, with that out of the way, I would like to tell you something another of importance as well. It is called the box model. Now, for every element that you find in HTML, there are certain things involved in it. It has a bit of padding. The space that you find here, the space that separates the content from the borders, is called a padding. So by default, it has this minimum padding here. This is called padding left, the space between the border and the contents of the element, right? So this line here, this outer line here, is called the border. And the space between the border and the content, which is this learning about inline and block elements, the spaces here are called the padding, right? The padding. So this is the padding to the right, the padding from up top, the padding from the bottom, and the padding to the left. The padding left, padding top, padding bottom, and padding right. And then this outer line here is called the borders. And now the space between the width of the screen itself and these elements is called the margin. Okay, so those four things are very important. Let me further illustrate them. Let me make them clear. So I will come here and I will do another style which is internal to this page. So I'll say style, and then I will select my H1 element and I'll apply a border to it. I will give it a width of 1 pixel. I'll make it solid, and I'll give it a color of which color will really stand out. Let's just give it a color. I think black will do. Black will have to do. So I've given it the color of black, and made it with 1 pixels. So I'll come over here and I'll refresh this page. And as you can see, this black line we find here, it tells us that this is the border of this element. That is what I was trying to tell you about, the border. So this border is one of those key things I keep telling you about, because it tells us how the content is separated from the borders due to their padding. It all has to do with layouting. So this box model, it all has to do with layouting, and these 4 things are key. So this space you find here is padding, the lines under it, the borders. Now the spaces, this white space you find here, is the margin of this content, and this is the content itself. Alright, I hope that is clear, but if it is not, let's just go over to W3 Schools and you see a clear image of it. So let's say we're learning CSS, of course, and we have the box model here. And okay, you can see this here. So this is the content of the box where text and images appear. It cannot only be text as we have here, it can be images, it can be links as well, the content. Now the padding, it clears an area around the content. The padding is transparent, so this is the padding here. And the border is a border that goes around the padding and content. This is the border. This is the border, the black line. And of course the margin declares an area outside the border. The margin is transparent as well. So this is the margin. This is the margin with regards to this element. Hope that is clear, because we'll be using a lot of this idea when we're trying to lay out our page. Because here, this will be some sort of or header, right? This will be the header, and it's a block element, and within it, they've put another block element which contains some inline elements. Okay, and this is the padding between the elements, right? And we can argue that this page could have been like this, and this is the left margin. There is a line here, and this is the left margin that has pushed this page further inside. So everything you have to know is that the box model is very important, and we will use it. We will use the idea because we cannot help using it. We must use it. So that is what I wanted to let you know in this lesson. The box model and the different kind of elements that we have. And I hope it is clear, but if it is not, you can always go through this video again and understand it before you're moving over to the next lesson. With that said, I'll see you then.